This is What School Didn't Teach Me, a podcast meant to build community on all the things school doesn't prepare you for. Hi, I'm your host, Jasmine Kiamber, and class is in session.
Hey classmates, it's your host Jasmine Kimber, and welcome back to another episode of What School Didn't Teach Me. How's it going? I hope you're great. More importantly, I really hope you enjoyed last week's episode where we brought in Dr. Paris Woods. Y'all, that was a big girl guest. Y'all! I mean, I think every guest is important. Of course I do. But like, that was somebody famous. So I hope y'all acted right. I hope y'all was on your best behavior. And I really hope y'all were able to take away some nice tidbits from our conversation about financial literacy, financial freedom. And honestly, I wish I would have delved more into what financial freedom meant to both her and me. Because that's a topic I tend to have with some of my friends kind of often, actually. Like as we grow up, as we go older, as we are getting older and are kind of seeing the kind of life we want for ourselves, we've kind of come to the realization that it does not look like a life that any of us have ever seen. And therefore, we have to create our own idea of freedom. It can be, for some people, it can be really hard to figure out what that kind of life looks like. Hence why the classmates guide that was posted that week was pushing us a little more to figure out what that life might look like for us. Because like Dr. Woods said, freedom really is the goal. You know what I mean? Freedom really is the goal. And honestly, I feel like we can live a part of that freedom right now. Like I remember seeing something that said, like, people in their 20s have the time and the energy to do what they really want to do with their life, but not the money. People in their 30s have the money, but not the time and the energy. People who are 50, 60, 70 have the money, have the time, but not the energy. You know what I mean? So even in our 20s, like even now as young people, you know, some of my listeners, they're in their 30s. In your 20s and 30s, there's still a way for you to make space for the life that you really want, for the freedom that you really want for yourself. But like Dr. Woods said, it's really a matter of figuring out what you want for your future self and making smaller decisions, small everyday decisions to create that life for yourself. Which honestly leads me to our conversation for today. And which honestly leads me into our conversation for today. And honestly is a part of the reason why the theme for this season has been invest in yourself, right? Like I just said, people in their 20s, they might not have the money, but they have the time and the energy to do all of the things they really want to do in their life, right? And I've recently come to the realization that for me personally, I need to be making the conscious, intentional effort to create the life that I want for myself. The life that I want for myself now, and the kind of life that I want to live when I'm 30, 40, 50, and beyond. You know what I mean? And when I think about who that person is like very crafty, very resourceful. That's the word. Like they're very resourceful. They just can pull something out of nothing, out of thin air. Like she just knows how to do a little bit of everything. And a part of that is because she literally spent her 20s doing a little bit of everything, like dabbling in any one of her interests, taking the time to invest in every single part of her creativity as well as herself, right? So then when she is older and when she is wiser, when I have kids and grandkids, there are so many ways that I can be a resource to them and even maybe to the people around me because I was intentional about learning different crafts, different hobbies. Honestly, I know you see the title of today's episode is called Hobby Up because that's what I need y'all to do. I need y'all to hobby up. I need y'all to go ahead, put down that phone, pick up that hobby. Okay. And so honestly, I have spent a lot of my time so far. I'm only 21. Yeah, this is September. I'm only 21. So I've spent a lot of my time so far really delving into multiple different hobbies. I'm what I call myself a hobby hopper. You feel me? Because like I'll get into one thing and I might just do it for like a month. And then I'll get into something else. do it, get into something else, do it, get into something else. And sometimes I come back to the older hobbies. Sometimes I don't. Most times I do. But honestly, because I want to learn a little bit of everything so that years from now I'm a resource. You know what I mean? Um, and so it really, really pushed me because I know because that is a way that I am investing in myself right now. I definitely want to be able to extend that to my classmates because as I have delved and hopped into different hobbies, I've noticed how it's helped me become more confident in myself, how I've learned more and been able to apply things I learned from my hobbies to like different situations and sometimes other hobbies, but also how it's helped me be more self-sufficient, both in my decision making skills because really creativity is all about what you actually want, not about the kind of decision that somebody can make for you. Creating my own structure because yes, you're making your own decisions, but also, you know, if you're crocheting, if you're sewing, certain things have certain patterns. So adapting to that kind of structure and routine. And then also like self-sufficiency in the sense that I don't necessarily need anybody to do my hobby for me or with me. You know, I can do my hobby with other people. Like I scrapbook with my friends. I crochet with my Bible study group. You know, things like that. You know, and I have friends who want to just delve into. I hike with some of my friends, like things like that. But you don't necessarily, when it comes to a hobby, you don't necessarily need anybody else, right? That is something that you can have for yourself. And I think that that's and when I think about all of those things, I think about how that's perfect in the realm of investing in ourselves, in making sure that we are taking care of ourselves, as our conversation for this month or as our topic for this month is, right? We know this season we're talking about investing in ourselves, and this month we're talking about how we can continue to take care of ourselves, right? It's a little different than all of our topics from, was that July? It's a little different from our topics in July when we talked about how to maintain a relationship with ourselves. While yes, taking care of ourselves involves our relationship with ourselves, and causes us to have to, like, you know, of course, get over some trauma, get over some triggers, have some money conversations. You know I've mentioned that like money conversations weren't the easiest for me. So even last week's conversation was big for me. You know what I'm saying? It was something that I needed, something that would help me with my relationship with myself. So yes, while taking care of yourself deals with your relationship with yourself, it's one thing for you to be like, oh yeah, let me start, you know, like, dang, what did we talk about? Let me start setting certain boundaries and saying no to people and scheduling more time for myself. It's another thing for you to be like, well, what am I going to do when I schedule time for myself? Am I going to learn about the stock market? Am I going to pick up a hobby? Am I going to do a face mask and learn more about skincare because that's important for the long term? Like what are you going to what else can you be doing for yourself, right? There are a million ways that we can invest in ourselves, a million ways that we can be taking care of ourselves. And so this month we're just going to cover a couple of things that just can help us continue to invest in ourselves. So this month, honestly, I think this is the only video. This is the only video that I'll be doing solo. So, hey, love y'all. I hope you really enjoy the guests for this month because I'm really excited about them. I really enjoy them. But I feel like learning new things, picking up new hobbies has definitely been something that God has been calling me to do, or at least something that I've been picking up a whole lot lately, you know? And definitely something that I was doing a lot during the summer that I'll be able to carry as the seasons change. And let me just say this, y'all, summer is over. Summer is over. I can hardly hide my excitement because y'all, summer was fun. Summer was like, this was probably my best summer since 2022. 2022 was like the summer of concerts. I was like doing fun stuff. Summer of 2022 was great. But this past summer was like super fun. Like I literally picked up new hobbies all summer. Picked up new hobbies, went on vacation, like It's been cool, but this heat ain't been cute. This heat ain't been nice. And I know it's still hot because it's September. It's still hot. But temperature only goes down from here, y'all. Like September starts cooling down. October, it get cold in October. You feel me? November, December. Yeah. I'm definitely made for the fall. I'm an October baby. I feel like we know that. You feel me? So I'm definitely excited. 1, for my birthday in October. 2, for the fall. For the fall and the winter, for it to cool down, to be back in my sweatshirts. I can't wait to be sitting in front of you. You feel me? I'm cute now. Cool. But I can't wait to be sitting in front of you in a sweatshirt. Those are the type of clothes I'm really made for. So yeah, summer is over. And while summer was fun, it was hot. So I'm glad that it's over. But let's talk about how fun summer was. This summer, like I said, I picked up a lot of hobbies. And it was probably the most hobbies I've picked up since I was a teenager. When I was a teenager, I was all over the place. I literally got into a little bit of everything. I was ice skating before I was double digits. I became interested in sewing and crocheting at around, I want to say 13, 14. So I had a sewing machine. I was hand sewing. I have yarn for crocheting. I was interested in tie-dyeing. I was interested in learning to play the guitar. I was just a little all over the place. I just was a little all over the place. And some of those things I actually learned how to do, and some of them I didn't. And I still hear about it from my mom to this day. And so since coming home from college, I remember like coming home from college and people talking about like the educational gap, right? And like the gap between, okay, yes, I've been in class all day and I'm so used to, or my body and my brain are so used to being in class and learning all day. What am I going to do with my time and my brain now? And I don't think I experienced that because when I got home, I was so quick to find something to do, right? Obviously, clearly, I'm good for finding something to do. And so I want to say I became intentional about my hobbies again. I want to say like this year, I picked up crocheting again. I picked up sewing again this summer. Now I still need to be intentional about that sewing because I told myself I was going to make a tote bag and I haven't. But just being more crafty. Like I was outside coloring way more this summer. Like I was reading. I probably didn't start my like reading for real until this summer. And I want to say I finished maybe 2 books this summer, which is honestly pretty good for me. I know people who can read books in like a month or a week. I'm getting there. But I want to say this summer I've really been able to pick up my hobbies. One of the most recent that has been important to me is like physical activity. I never considered myself to be like a super active physical person. But this summer, me and my friend Julia, like I have been dying, crying to do something. Like I want to play tennis. I want to go walking. I want to go hiking. I want to go bike riding, even though I didn't know how to ride a bike. And I wanted to do anything. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I was just sitting the steps to my friend Julia. And she was like, okay, bet, me too. Like, let's go do it. And so this summer or this past summer, I was very intentional, like literally every weekend. Every weekend or every other weekend, me and Julia would be out somewhere new, taking a walk, taking a hike, riding a bike, anything. And us doing that was actually great because the first day we went to ride a bike, it was actually my idea to do it. And I don't know how to ride a bike. I didn't know how to ride a bike. At the beginning of this summer, I didn't know how to ride. Now, at the beginning of this summer, I did not know how to ride a bike. Now I know how to ride a bike. Why? Because it was a hobby and I stuck to it. Okay. But I was very afraid because that first day we almost gave up something smooth. But that's something I was really proud of myself for because I was able to show myself like, no, it's not that you were never active. It's that you never committed to doing anything active. So I was literally able to like answer my body's call of doing something physically fun, physically active, something that was, yes, a hobby, but also edifying for my body, my spirit, my mind, because doing that physical activity was actually really helpful for my mental. And so that's really one of the things and so I feel like before I go any further, I should probably talk about what I mean when I say hobby up, right? Pick up a hobby. When I say that, I mean like a genuine hobby. I know some people say you have to have like 5 different hobbies. You have to, and I don't remember like what the category of all 5 is, but I know people were saying like you got to have one hobby that you do for fun, at least one hobby that you do for fun, and one hobby that you do to make you money. I feel like a hobby that you do to make you money, yes, is a hobby, but if it causes you stress and you take it seriously, it's no longer a hobby, but it is a job. And that is not a negative thing. That's not a negative thing. But I feel like once you start to take stuff seriously, you like take pride in it. It's no longer something that you do to like ease your mind. It is a part of your resume. I know we talk about life resume quite a bit this season so far because investing in yourself is a part of building your life resume. I feel like once you start doing things to build your life resume, it's not necessarily a part of your hobby because you take it serious, because it's now a part of you. You know what I mean? Like my podcast, I don't get paid for my podcast. My podcast would be considered a hobby, except I'm very serious and very consistent with my podcast. It's not a hobby to me, it's a job. And that's not a negative thing. I love it's probably one of my favorite jobs. That's just is what it is. I feel like content creators, I feel like what they do is not a hobby. You know, content creators, I mean, a lot of people for content creation, a lot of people get paid for content creation. A lot of people don't. And yet they still are consistent with it. They post on their specific schedule. To me, that is not a hobby. That is a job. Like you're really doing this out here. When I think of a hobby, I think of something that you do to like literally de-stress. Like something that you do literally for fun, literally to de-stress, something that you don't take quite as seriously, but still something that you love, right? It doesn't have to be something that you completely put on the back burner. And I feel like I've mentioned a couple of my hobbies already, but like reading. I read for fun. I read in multiple different platforms. I read and I listen to audiobooks. You know, I read so that I'm not staring at a screen all the time. I read so that my mind has stimulation when I'm washing dishes or when I'm cooking or when I'm doing work. I read before I go to sleep sometimes so that I can de-stress and take my mind off of the stress of the day and immerse myself in a new story, right? To me, that is a hobby. I don't like race myself to the finish line to see when I'm going to finish a book. I don't force myself to finish a book that I don't enjoy anymore. At least I try not to do that. It makes me feel really sad when I feel like I can't finish a book. But, you know, that's not something that causes me stress. That's not something it's a hobby, not a marathon. So I don't, you kind of get what I'm saying? Like it's not as stressful or it's not as demanding. I don't demand as much from reading as much as I do my consistency with the podcast. I color. I literally only color when I feel like it. I probably color like once every 2-3 months, and yet it's still a hobby. I feel like a lot of times we think of hobbies and we're like, oh, it's not a hobby because I literally did it like 3 times and you know, and I still like it. I just never make the time for it. No, like it's if it's still something you enjoy, if it's still something you want to have access to, all those things. Like I feel like it's not a matter of how often you do it that makes it a hobby. I think it's the fact that you like it and want to do it that makes it a hobby. And so, yes, like having a hobby that does not cause you stress and is not so demanding of you, something that is not a part of your streams of income, that is important. Like, yes, have multiple streams of income, but I just wouldn't call those things a hobby anymore. And feel free to disagree with me, because now that I think about it, I know a girl who does nails and it's just simply her hobby. Like, she gets paid to do nails, but it's her hobby. So I don't know. Maybe it's just my outlook on it. But I feel like when I think of a hobby, I think of something that just is not as... I feel like once you make a business out of your hobby, it's not the same kind of hobby. I don't know. Y'all are free to beat me up. Y'all are free to disagree with me and just give me a new open insight on it, because I would love a different outlook. But that is my mindset. So when we're talking about a hobby, we're not talking about a stream of income. We're not talking about something that you have to stress over. We're literally talking about an activity that brings you peace of mind that you don't have to do all the time, that you enjoy. Yeah. So let's talk about why it's important to have a hobby in the first place, because a lot of us are just out here, excuse my language, raw dogging life. Like, we're literally just eat, sleep, work, call my friends, eat, sleep, work, next day. You know what I mean? Like, in that we adapt to this routine of almost just getting by, or the idea of, I know I mentioned it in a previous episode, living for the weekend, right? Where we really don't make time for ourselves, time for the things we love, time for the things we enjoy until those designated 2 days called a weekend that really go by just like that, right? I feel like that kind of cycle, quite honestly, is what makes people age. And I don't mean age in a bad way. I don't mean age in a bad way. It's good to grow old. But I think that cycle of eat, sleep, work, rinse, repeat is what takes the life out of people and is what makes life less fun. I do. I feel like when you are living in routine and are not incorporating things that you like in your life, then what are you doing for real? Like, in life, you're not incorporating any time for yourself. You're not incorporating any time and love. And so when things happen, like when life actually starts to happen, when you start becoming unmotivated, when you start getting tired, when you start feeling overwhelmed, there aren't as many outlets, or you might not see as many outlets that can relieve you of that stress, that can take you out of that routine, that can bring you a joy and a smile and a laugh that are not the usual TV, doom scrolling, social media circle, right? I feel like we have to find stimulation outside of our devices, outside of our TV, outside of our phones, outside of our iPads, outside of our computers, outside of TikTok, outside of Instagram, Snapchat. Like, I feel like we have to, for the sake of our sanity and our mental health. I know everybody knows what doom scrolling is. I feel like for the sanity of our mental health, we have to get out of finding so much joy in our devices and more in our surroundings. And so when you get in this habit of like eat, sleep, work, rinse, repeat, doom scroll till 3 a.m., whatever, there aren't, like I said, there aren't as many outlets for you to find joy. And so then when life starts happening, there's nothing outside of what your norm is. You watching TV on your phone that you are used to holding on to bring you back to center, to bring you back to joy, to bring you back to life, essentially. And at that point, you just start, after so long, you really just start dissociating through your days. And then next thing you know, it's been a year, you look up and you wonder where the year has been. It's because you've dissociated throughout the year. And I know that sounds like a really intense snowball effect, but honestly, that's exactly how it happens. Life starts happening. We look for short-term joy. We look for stimulation. We find it in our devices for a temporary amount of time. We find it, we lose it, we go back to our devices, and eventually we lose our joy. You know what I mean? Like, let's be honest, TV gets boring. Eventually you look up and you're like, why am I scrolling on Instagram? Why am I scrolling on TikTok? It doesn't even bring you the same joy, the same laughs. But you know what can? Finding a new hobby. It's not the cure for all evil. It's not the cure for all diseases, but it definitely helps and contributes to recentering yourself, bringing yourself back to life. I'm going to use myself as an example. As an example because yesterday I realized, or I remembered, the importance of having a hobby. And having a hobby, yes, for myself and how it helps me regulate my emotions, but also for the conversation. I know y'all remember earlier in the season, I had a conversation with my first lady on the pod in finding balance. And my first lady was talking about how important it is for you to have your own thing to do, because your significant other, if you have one, or even your friends, they have things to do as well. And therefore you might not always be able to call on them. They cannot be your escape from solitude, not even from loneliness, because that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about solitude. And sometimes not having a hobby can lead to feeling loneliness because of that cycle of doom scrolling, falling into routine, not really feeling the joy and the spark of life. Okay, let's talk about it. Last night, crazy that this happened last night, because this is a really good example. Last night I was going grocery shopping. Oh my gosh, I had woke up from a nap. I worked all day, woke up from a nap, went grocery shopping. Really didn't want to go grocery shopping. Did not like going grocery shopping like in my area. Ended up walking out and some people were having an argument. I'm like, these people, Los Angeles is really a special place. Like, Los Angeles was really, really written in a movie, because the things we see every day. So I'm going to the grocery store. The grocery store is not my favorite place. I'm leaving the grocery store. People are arguing and fighting outside the grocery store. That's not helping my mood. And while all of this is happening, I'm on the phone, right? I'm on the phone, and the person I'm on the phone with has to get off the phone, right? As soon as they hang up, I feel this sense of loneliness just slew over my body. And I don't often feel lonely, but honestly, to be honest, when it's that time of the month, that's what I feel. I feel loneliness at most when that time is coming. So like this slew of loneliness just like filled over my whole body. And I started to get really, really, really sad. And part of me was just like, let me find another friend, another person to like be my outlet, be my source of entertainment, stimulation, all these things, right? Like, let me go find that in someone else. But I knew that wasn't going to last. Like, I know myself well enough to know, like, I don't just be wanting to talk to anybody. I don't just want to be around somebody just because I want to be around someone. Like, if I'm going to be around someone, I'd like for them to be good energy, right? So I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? Right? Because I don't feel like reading. Like, I do feel sad, but I don't feel like reading. I know part of me wants to just go lay in my bed and sit on Instagram and sit on TikTok, but I know that's not smart. I don't necessarily want to watch TV, right? Unless I'm watching a really, really funny movie, but I have to do something along with that. Otherwise, the lonely feeling is not going to go away. What am I going to do? And so it was an opportunity for me to really like practice what I preach. I feel like since this season has started, like, yes, I don't talk about anything that I haven't been through before, but I feel like God has really been, like, as I've been talking about things, I've been pushed and reminded to actually practice what I preach. So I knew the conversation of having a hobby and how important having a hobby was coming up. And I knew I was recording today. But yeah. So yesterday, as all this stuff is happening, or last night as all this stuff is happening, I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And so I say a quick prayer, and then I use that good old Google, and I'm like, Google, what do you do when you're sad? Like, what are some activities you can do when you're sad? Because what I don't want to do is fall into this bad pattern of using people to fill in that void for myself, or to just do something that I know is completely unhealthy and not going to help me and really is ultimately going to make me feel worse. So I looked some stuff up, and while I did not really use, like, it was like, oh, go for a walk, oh, cook something new, oh, this, oh, that. I wasn't going to do any of that because it was 7 at night, and what do I look like going for a walk at 7 at night? So while I didn't do anything on my Google search, as I was scrolling, as I was looking, I started to think of all of the things that I could do that have made me feel better in the past, right? I'm like, okay, I really enjoy coloring. I haven't colored in a while. That might help me. I haven't painted in a while. That might make me feel good. I haven't done a face mask in a while. I haven't taken care of my scalp and my skin. You know, my skin could probably need some of that. You know, I might not cook something new, but I don't know, make a new smoothie. I could put clean something, whatever is gonna, help me to make me feel good. So I went in the house. I put groceries away. I made myself some tea because I know, like, honestly, tea making has probably been my newest hobby. Like getting active, walking, hiking, things like that. That has been a newer hobby since this summer. But like in the past couple weeks, I've really been big on like making iced tea because it's been hot. And I like tea, but like I want cold tea. And so I've been like steeping tea and just holding it in the refrigerator. So whenever I want like an iced tea, I just pull it out. Oh my gosh. So bomb. So bomb. Like, so bomb. But that's been a new thing for me, right? Like just to, and it doesn't seem like a crazy hobby, but it's so fun for me to just be steeping tea, holding it in over there. I'm actually steeping some tea right now. But to be steeping tea, holding it over for a day, taking it, putting it in the refrigerator, watching how many hours between steeps, like, okay, this is what tea looks like 4 hours later. This is what it looks like 2 hours later. This is what it looks like after a 30-minute steep. And then just getting to reap that reward after drinking my iced tea. Oh my gosh. Anyway, stay on topic, stay on track. I made myself some tea. I made myself a new smoothie. Then I went in the bathroom and I did a face mask. And by the time I did by the time I did all three of those things, because I like meal prepped, like I not meal prepped, I smoothie prepped. I made myself a smoothie, I made myself some tea, and I smoothie prepped. By the time I did those three, I was feeling a little better. Went in the bathroom and I did a face mask. By the time I did the face mask, I was like laughing, dancing in the room with some music, like I was feeling good. Then I went and cleaning is not a hobby, guys. Cleaning is not a hobby, but I just had some cleaning that I needed to do. I cleaned. And then after it was all over, like I went, washed my face mask off. My skin was feeling good. I was feeling good. My mood was so much lighter. And I was like, let me not stop there. Because when you're sick, you don't just stop taking the medicine as soon as you're feeling better. You should take it like for a day or two afterwards, right? So I was like, let me not stop there. Let me do something else that I know makes me feel good. So I took my coloring book and I pulled out a coloring book that I haven't touched in a little while. And I pulled out these special felt markers that only work with this coloring book. And I sat there and did I even watch TV? No, I didn't even turn on the TV. Like I sat there, I talked to my mom for a little bit. I colored, and I just eased my mind. Right? Now that sounded like a whole lot, right? And some of those things may not even sound like hobbies. Some of those things might just sound like, okay, well those are regular activities, right? You made a smoothie, that's food. You made tea, that's regular, But to me, those are activities that bring me joy, right? I might not make a smoothie every day. I might not make tea. Well, I do. As of right now, I do make tea every day. But to me, that is a hobby. Doing my face mask, skincare was a huge hobby for me. Like at one point, there was a point in my life where every weekend I was deep in some kind of face mask. So picking up things that I know make me feel good, coloring something that I hadn't picked up in a while, but getting a chance to do that to help me ease my mind and ultimately uplift my mood by myself. At that point, I wasn't relying on anybody to make me feel better, to boost my mood. I was not shutting myself in my room and closing the door and isolating myself and filling my mind with stimulation that really wasn't helping me. I actively went. I wasn't now treating the person that I live with badly because I feel bad. No, I made an intentional effort to step out of myself and to do something that makes me feel good, right? There is nothing more gratifying. There's nothing that feels better than to regulate your own emotions, to be like, okay, something is wrong with me. I need to fix it. I need to feel better. So let me do what I like to do. Not what helps me ignore people, not let me call such and such so they can help me feel better. No, let me dive back into that activity that brings me joy, that brings me peace, that takes me out of my normal routine, right? Even if your hobby is a part of your routine, that's fine too. It honestly probably should be. Just like we were talking about, I think we talked about it in It's Okay to Say No. We talked about how you should be scheduling time for yourself in your weeks, right? I've had to be more intentional about that. Scheduling my self-care, scheduling all those things for myself. Just like you should be scheduling time for yourself in your week, you should be scheduling time for your hobbies too. And those two things are not mutually exclusive. I hope I'm using that term correctly. But sometimes the time you set for yourself can be the time that you set for your hobby. And sometimes it could be a completely different time, right? But I think personally, the best way to pull yourself out of routine and to really not let life pass you by is to recenter yourself and pick up your hobby, right? Sometimes picking that hobby back up lets go of stress that you didn't even really realize you had, right? I have this really bad habit, right? Since a little girl, I was used to the idea of like, I wake up, I gotta be on the move. Like something has to be on the agenda. I have to be doing something. Something has to be going on. Like I need to know what's going on in my day. I have to do something. Which means on days when there's nothing on my to-do list, where I really can just enjoy my day, it can sometimes be really hard for me, especially when I feel like I've had too much leisure time, right? Like I want to say this, last week I went on a trip to Hawaii, right? I went on a trip to Hawaii. I was only gone for a couple days, but then when I got back, there wasn't a lot on my to-do list. Like you would think my to-do list is now packed, but I had done all that stuff before I left, so I could be okay, right? So I come back, there's not a lot on my to-do list. And then that Saturday rolled around and I woke up just in complete uproar and anxiety, like something has to be going on. Like it's been too many days where I've been doing nothing. Like what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I was like, okay. I prayed because when I feel anxious, I have to pray, right? And honestly, praying helps because I've gotten in the habit of just being like, Lord, my mind is everywhere. Please help me. Please give me peace. Like it doesn't have to be some elaborate prayer. It's just a simple like, Lord, you see my mind is going crazy. I know my mind is going crazy because I'm having trouble relaxing. Lord, help me to relax. So after I prayed, I felt a little better, but I was still like, okay, there's something that I can do, right? And I thought to myself, and I'm like, man, I haven't spent a lot of time with myself lately. I haven't done anything for myself lately. And so I looked around the room because all of my hobby stuff is in my room, and I literally picked up a whole lot of everything. And in the corner of my room, I just have a bunch of scrapbook stuff because me and my girlfriends, we scrapbooked. I still have all that stuff. I need to do something with all that stuff. So for now, until my scrapbooking career is up or until I find a place to put all those belongings, it's in the corner of my room. But of course, it's a little bit of an eyesore, and a part of my strategy for cleaning my room is participating in scrapbooking, right? So I'm like, okay, how can I service myself right now? I look in the corner, I see all my scrapbooking stuff, and I say, hey, I haven't made a lot of time for myself lately. I haven't made a lot of time to really like get all of the stuff that's visible, non-visible, nor have I scrapbooked in a while. I've just been waiting on other people to scrapbook with me, but I haven't scrapbooked by myself. I didn't say, oh, I'm just going to do this for me, you know? So then I took the stuff to the living room. I was like, okay, I'm going to scrapbook. I picked the stuff up, took it to the living room, and I literally only did, I want to say 2 pages, and I prepped for the next page. And while it did not, like the stuff is still there, it's still in the corner of my room. After I scrapbooked, I no longer felt all of that stress and anxiety because all of that stress, all of that negative energy, I converted it into creative energy. And the pages came out really cute. They're not finished, but the pages I made came out like really, really cute because energy is energy. You know, energy cannot be destroyed, but it can be converted. Sometimes that stress, that negative energy, that pent up energy, whatever, can be converted into creative energy, and honestly, ultimately can help you regulate your own emotions. So yeah, if you ever needed a sign or a notion to just go ahead and pick up that new activity you wanted to do, pick it up. Don't be scared. Don't be scared to start at the beginning, right? You're not going to be good at every hobby you do. It's okay to have a million different hobbies. It's okay to only have 3. I was going to say 5, but I'll give you 3. If you have 3 that you honestly enjoy, rotate. You know what I mean? But I know sometimes we can be scared to pick up a new hobby because we don't want to be bad at it. We don't want to invest in it. We don't want to pour so much money and time and energy only to not stick with it. And let me just tell you, that does not matter. As a person who hops from hobby to hobby, one, you never know how that skill is going to come up for you next, how that skill, you're going to need that skill later on. But two, even if you only participated in for 3 or 4 months, however long it gives you joy, that's what matters, right? It does not matter that it doesn't matter if you start sewing and you become this great sewing master. No, that's really not the goal. The goal is not to be the best at everything. The goal is not to be the best at your hobby. The goal is to find activities that you love, that you enjoy, that break you out of your routine, that help you de-stress, right? And so if you need help finding hobbies, one, don't be afraid to reach out to me because, baby, when I say I've dipped into a little bit of everything and I don't plan to stop, I've dipped into a little bit of everything and I don't plan to stop. So if you need help finding a hobby or getting into something that you've heard me mention, that you're interested in getting into, one, message me. Y'all know how to message me on the pod. And if you don't, we're on Instagram at WSDTMpod. Or you can email me at whatschooldidn'tteachme@gmail.com. So yeah, don't be afraid to reach out to me, but also use that Pinterest, use that TikTok, use that Google. Sometimes those can be your best friends. Watching other people do the things you enjoy, I promise you, can be the motivation for you to just go ahead and do it. Like if you see somebody regular and it's like, oh, you can do it? Oh, then I can definitely do it, right? So let me be your reminder that it's so important for you to have hobbies. Hobbies outside of your friends, hobbies outside of your significant other, and hobbies outside of your job, your work, right? If you are doing something that you love, if your job is something that you love to do, fantastic. I love that. Keep going, keep doing it. But you still need a hobby outside of that, a hobby that has absolutely nothing to do than what you do for work, right? I have to have hobbies outside of podcasting because podcasting is what I do for work. I have to do more things outside of that. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's all I have for this week. I just want it to be your motivation to find a new hobby, find that new activity that you enjoy to do. Go out and find new things to break out of your routine because sometimes we feel like we're not living because we're not being intentional about doing new things, new fun things, right? That's it. And if you have a hobby that you really love, share it with me. Y'all know I love when y'all share things with me. So you know what? That's our homework for this week. Our homework for this week, let me see a picture or a video. It can be old, it could be new, of you participating in your hobby. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing it. It doesn't matter if it's not aesthetically pleasing. Even if your hobby is going to concerts, traveling, those are hobbies too. I want to see your hobby. And I'll make sure to post mine too. I'm so excited to see the hobbies that y'all show me. Maybe you'll show me something new. All right. I love y'all. And I'll see y'all next week. Actually, no. I'll see y'all on Instagram because you're going to show me them hobbies. Bye.